Welcome guys to another episode. I did have a episode request which I will do next week. However, I do need to change the title of that request because the request was why all men are beep. So I'm going to address that issue in a different way. So listen out for that one. This episode is called How to Lose Weight with Self-Love. And self-love really can help you become the healthiest and most wellness version of you without dieting. Okay, the big problem is that self-love can feel so inaccessible to some of us, especially if you're struggling with binge eating, body dysmorphia and self-loathing and body hate, then it can feel completely a million miles away. So today I want to talk about self-love, how that can relate to losing weight, and then also how to even start loving yourself in the first place. So again, self-love and weight loss, is that really a thing? But did you know that you don't have to love your body and look in the mirror and be like, oh my God, I'm so freaking hot, to actually love yourself? Because there is a difference. With my clients, I work on both. We start off with self-love and then we move on to body confidence and body love from there, but it all starts with self-love. And the thing is, when you learn how to love yourself, things just fall into place. And when you learn to love yourself, your self-compassion grows. And self-compassion is the love that you have towards yourself, and that is key. Because when you're binge eating, for example, and you quote unquote mess up or fuck up, excuse my language, or you have a blowout, and then all you do is talk to yourself like absolute shit about how much of a failure you are, or how you wish you hadn't done that, or you're going to do better next time. But when you talk to yourself like shit, basically, there's no self-compassion there, and then you're more likely to then do it again. But when you learn how to just be compassionate with yourself and understanding with yourself, and by the way, that's not the same as letting yourself off the hook, because a lot of type A personality people do binge eat because they're perfectionists, and they seem to think that if they're not talking to themselves like shit, then they're just being too soft on themselves, and then that way they're never going to achieve goals. But I use this example a lot. If a young baby is trying to learn how to walk, and of course it's going to keep falling down because it doesn't know how to walk yet until it's learnt it, as a parent or a guardian, are you going to speak to the baby like shit if it's failing, if it keeps falling over, or are you going to give it encouragement and compassion and emphasize the baby's success and be over happy and over excited when it does start to go in the right direction with regards to its walking? So imagine if you did speak to the baby like shit and not abused it, but was really mean to it, which I guess is a form of abuse, every time it didn't stand up or learn to walk. It's going to learn a lot slower if it's scared than if it has compassion and empathy and encouragement given towards it. And that's the same as you. What people tend to forget is because you're you and you're living in and through you, which is a strange thing to say, you tend to forget that you're a living person. So if you look at yourself as something you're madly in love with, if you don't love yourself yet, so that might be a small child, that might be an animal, if you're not a baby person, like a puppy or something. If you look at yourself, physically take yourself out of your mind and look at your body as the thing that you love, it's easier to treat yourself with love and compassion, because you're acknowledging that you are a person or an animal or whatever it is that you love that deserves to be treated with love, because you do. So once you stop beating yourself up after you've had a binge, and once you replace all that with compassion, then you gradually stop the binge eating, or you gradually stop this dramatic self-hate and overeating cycle. It takes a while, but then weight loss can come from that. And that's just one point that I work on with coaching, because it is important to know the next step that I'm going to be talking about is binge eating can be as well as loads of other reasons and things for it. It can be an ingrained habit. So that's when I use neuroplasticity to change habits and to rewire your brain so you no longer want or need to binge eat. And it's all intertwined, because when you do something for long enough, it becomes a habit anyway. But a lot of the time, we need to find out why we're binge eating in the first place. So if self-love helps with binge eating, how do you love yourself? So one of the key reasons or the key ways to love yourself is to make space for yourself. And what do I mean by space? Well, from my experience, the best way to learn how to love yourself is to give yourself room to feel. And when I say feel, I mean give yourself room to feel your emotions, because emotions are energy in motion. And if you don't feel your emotions and let them pass through you, the energy gets stuck. And it's been proven, quantum physics, everything is energy. So even if you're not very spiritual, that's completely fine. I'm not pushing that onto you. But it's a fact that emotions are energy in motion. And if you don't let them out or feel them, they get stuck and they manifest in other ways throughout your body, or your actions, or your emotions, or your mood, whatever. It can be disease, it can be binge eating, a whole array of things. But if you don't feel your feelings and you're trying to constantly stuff your feelings down with food, or not, like, as humans, we don't like to feel pain. We're driven to find pleasure, understandably, and we're also driven to avoid pain. So if we're feeling an emotion that we don't want to feel, we try to run away from it, we try to hide it, we try and cover it up. We don't want to sit and just feel the negative emotion because it's painful. But if we learn how to express our emotions, well, first of all, just learn how to feel them and just be with yourself and just feel what you're feeling right now, other than trying to cover it up because you don't like the feeling of it. That's a massive first step towards self-love. So by making space for yourself is, first of all, you need to, even if you're in the middle of a binge or you want to binge, or it doesn't even have to be a binge, it could be any self-destructive thing that you do, or even over-exercising. Although exercise is good, over-exercising is not good. It's a form of self-abuse if you're abusing your body when it's not ready to do what it wants to do. Is just stopping. So just stop whatever you're doing, whether it's before, during, after, whenever. Just stop, get present and check in with yourself, and then find out what you're feeling and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And I do that every single morning that I wake up, and I also do it a lot when I feel thoughts of overwhelm come in, or when I'm for some reason just feeling a bit moody for no particular reason. I stop and be like, okay, what's going on? What am I feeling right now? And it's just taking time for yourself, which is the most important thing, to stop and feel. So when you do that, whether you then choose to continue binge eating or whatever, that's completely fine and completely okay. Like, that's completely fine. Binge eating is not good or bad, it just is what it is. And then when you stop and feel what you're feeling, you can then make a conscious choice to continue doing what you're doing, or to stop, or to just sit there and just feel it. So it sounds a bit weird, but that does really, really help. And self-love inspired me to quit dieting. So before I took the plunge into giving up diets for good, because this was at my lowest point. If you read on my story, if you're interested, at my lowest point that I'd been in, I'd literally had enough and I didn't know what to do. I knew that another diet wouldn't fix it, because I'd tried for so many years, and I was just literally done, and I just didn't know what to do, and I just needed help. So I hired a coach. And in the back of my mind, of course I wanted to lose weight, because I'd put all this weight on due to binge eating, and I hated my body, and I wanted to someone needed to just finish it for me and just help me out of the mindset and everything that I was in. But I still wanted to lose weight or feel healthy, or just I wanted someone to help me. I think that's quite obvious the way I'm talking now as well. And you might be in that stage right now. But I hired a coach, and I actually hired a spiritual wellness coach, and I didn't know anything about spirituality or anything like that, and for some reason I just felt called to reach out to this lady. She's called Martina Robinson. I've put the links in my blog, which is attached to this episode, and she's on Instagram and she's got a website and things, and she introduced me to self-love. I didn't really know what it was, if I'm being honest. I didn't know exactly what it was, and she introduced me to self-love, and also she introduced me to Louise Hay. And Louise Hay is a spiritual thought leader who believes that self-love is at the root cause of absolutely everything that we do in this world, and I completely believe that. So I've read nearly all of Louise Hay's books, which I would really recommend. You Can Heal Your Life is a really good place to start, and it all comes down to self-love and mirror affirmations. I mean, when I first heard of mirror affirmations, Martina, my coach, asked me to start doing some mirror affirmations, and I felt like an idiot, and I actually cried. I couldn't look in a mirror and look at myself in the eyes and say, Victoria, I love you, or I love myself. I couldn't do that because I would just cry and cry. I had so much pain, and something was blocking me from accepting the love that I was telling myself. So I knew I had a lot to work on. So I did work on it. And along with the fact that I stopped and got present and then allowed myself to feel my feelings when I was in the middle of like a rampant binge episode, along with the self-love mirror affirmations, such as I'd wake up every morning, go straight to the mirror and say, I love you, I approve of myself, I am enough. And I just kept doing that throughout the day. And you need to be ready to change, because these things seem silly and awkward, but you know what? I was desperate, so I did whatever Martina told me to do. And she told me to do that, so I did. And before you know it, because you tell yourself, and your subconscious mind gets told, which is, you've got one mind, but your conscious mind is your peripheral cortex, can I say that word, at the front of your brain, and the subconscious mind it's like an iceberg. You've got the tip of an iceberg, which is your conscious mind, and then all the massive bit underneath is your subconscious mind. So that basically rules the show. So if the more you goes into your subconscious mind, it then becomes your beliefs, and then ultimately it will become who you are, because whatever you believe is what you become, and whatever you think, then you are. So the more you do this, again, you may think it's not worth it, it's too simple, but the more you do this, it's amazing what happens. So if you do this for at least 3 months, the changes you'll notice a lot quicker than that. I noticed changes within about 4 to 6 weeks of constantly doing this every day. In fact, no, probably even before that, but it's very subtle. But if you want it enough, you can do it. And if you decide you want to love yourself and give yourself these affirmations in the mirror and just believe it as much as you can. You won't believe it at the beginning, you'll just think you're just talking lies to yourself, but it becomes easier, and then your self-love develops, your self-compassion develops, and then the weight loss just comes off. There's loads of other things around it, but then you don't self-sabotage as much because you love yourself, so why would you? And you start to choose foods that feel good in your body, and then you need to work on your mindset first with regards to building healthy habits, but that's again another episode. But self-love, it can help with weight loss. It definitely helped with mine, because it stopped me constantly going on a cycle of binge eating, and it just made me stop and let myself feel and approve of myself for exactly who I was at that point, which then when you approve of who you are, you stop desperately trying to change yourself. And when you stop fighting against yourself, then you kind of lose weight without even trying. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I love you all. I just hope one day you learn how to love yourself as much as you were born loving yourself. And I will see you on the next episode.